Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's show, it's day 2 of the Fundamentals Workshop, where I tackle the blue spruce. I'm sure it's not hard to believe that this is another nursery find I picked up last year in the discount section. This is a Picea pungens, blue spruce. The specific variety is a Glauca clavosa, or the globe blue spruce. After digging this tree out of its nursery pot, we discovered the grafting location. I'm not sure if the standard Picea pungens, the blue spruce, is the bottom part of this tree, the root section, or the foliage up on top. This tree in the ground would get to about 5 to 6 feet tall and about 5 to 6 feet wide. Therefore, I'm assuming the name globe. We'd see about as much height as width. Before we dig into this one, let's head into my plant room for a brief demonstration on the whiteboard. In the plant room, I've got my whiteboard set up here, and I want to talk about those nursery pots, the big nursery finds. So I find all these great pots, anywhere from the 2 and 5 range, all the way up to these 10, 15, 20, even 30-gallon pots. 15 to 30 bucks, great values, but are you getting what you pay for? You have to be very careful, of course, with the nursery finds, because you don't know what's underneath. You don't know when it was slip potted last. You don't know if it was just put into a bigger pot, and you don't know where the roots are growing. So let's quickly draw a quick diagram here for you and some things to consider when you go look at that nursery pot find, right? So the tree that I had at the workshop was in this great big container. Thought it was a great, fantastic buy, and here's some of the struggle that I had. So we had the tree going up like this, and it had this gnarly broken off branch here, and there's some more branches up here. It splits off. There's a nice branch over here. So if you have the tree structure that you like up top, that's wonderful. But it's right here that we're concerned about, right? And so this went down a little bit in the pot. And as I dug down in the pot, grab yourself your chopstick, some kind of bamboo stick, and you're gonna tease down the soil, get in there with your hands, bring some gloves, bring your tools, and see how far this goes down. And we're looking for where that flare starts, right? Where some of the roots start to connect here and flare out for a nabari. And when I dug down, I thought the nabari was about here. But little did I know that that was one big root that came down here and split into some other roots. And that it came down here, and then it had a little bit of reverse taper, and the flare was actually down here. Now, maybe not this far down in the pot, but I think you get the idea. I didn't see this big bulge right here. And even if this bulge wasn't so bad right on this side, this is where this reverse taper kind of happened here because of this big root right here. So I teased away the soil, and I found this flare, this root, and I stopped. So don't be afraid to dig down a little bit further. And as Peter T dug down a little bit further into my pot, he realized that, yeah, we have this reverse taper down here, and that was a major bummer because the new tree bottom, or the top I should see, that's going to be above the soil line, is going to be right here. So we have to be very careful when we dig down in our pots. We don't know what we're going to find, but we have to go beyond that first inch or two to see where that nabari really will be. Where do those roots really flare out? Now, if there was a really good root here, and a good root here, and a good root here, I could probably make a root chop, you know, kind of the tap root, if you will. I could have chopped all this out, and this could have been my nabari, but the better nabari is down below, and hopefully in the future it'll be okay. It definitely was a two-person job to get this one out of its nursery pot. If you react like I do when working with conifers, or if you just want to keep your hands cleaner, I again recommend gloves for this type of tree. When I work without gloves, I tend to get a little hives or little itchy spots all over my hands from all the needles poking me. This was not my Peter T working day, it was my observing day, so I let the others from the MBS group consume his attention. But he did take a look at my tree the day before. After his initial dig into the pot, he and I discovered we did have a bit of a reverse taper situation on this tree. I did not take that time at the nursery to dig down deep enough to see how good the root flare might be. What I did see on the tree that sold me was a couple of really nice lower branches, good branching in general, And a nice sized trunk overall, and lots of little back buds. We definitely want to find the best trunk, but it's also good to find trees with back budding, so you know it'll be back budding for you in the future. If you have 10 trees to look at and one has really good back budding clearly on the tree, well, I would take that one. Of course, if the trunk is looking good and the branching is okay. I just didn't dig enough on this one to see that reverse taper. My bad, but the tree was only $30. Can't complain. So like the larch from the day before, I needed to tease away the soil until I saw that plane of the trunk where most of the roots were flaring outwards. Let me tell you, this tree had more roots than I have ever seen on a conifer to date. It was loaded. This meant a lot of slow, methodical untangling before we could just cut away at that bottom part to thin it up. When I finally got to the point where I could just get a glimpse of how much I needed to cut off to fit into the pot I had with me, I realized I might need to take a little more roots than I planned. The tree did have so many roots though, so I felt I'd be okay. The pot I had for the tree was my biggest plastic training pot that I had on hand, probably at home too when I thought about it. If I had a pot 1 to 2 inches bigger all around, I think the tree would have been better for it. I'll just need to keep an eye on it and give it very good aftercare. All the while I was teasing away at this massive root structure, I couldn't stop thinking about how I was going to handle that pretty significant reverse taper. Peter T. had suggested right away the day before that I could use the lower branch that was broken off to create a deadwood feature, cutting away at that. So as you look at the tree from this angle in this picture, you'll see a very big root on the left side. Below this root, there are 3 smaller roots. So right below that root is the skinny part of the trunk. Thus, the reverse taper. My MBS friend Dale suggested I leave this root for now, but we would take it off eventually. His reasoning was to make sure the tree survives, but we wanted to make sure that that root did not have a linear path up to taller branches up in the tree. That would maybe kill those if we just took the whole thing off in one fell swoop. We'll work gradually at the roots, taking off some at the workshop here. We'll take off more next time. He even suggested I make a tourniquet for the root at some point. That will slowly kill off the root and the path up to the top, and we can see how it affects the tree. All new to me. I can't wait to experiment. The flare out below is not too bad, but I'll likely have this reverse taper, well, forever, at least most of it. Unless I root graft, something like that. Peter T. was suggesting that I make that broken branch, as I mentioned earlier, maybe a nice deadwood feature. Back at the whiteboard, I wanted to talk about the deadwood feature and how we can possibly make a deadwood feature take away some of that reverse taper. So in my tree, below this big dead branch and where this root flares out, there's this reverse taper section, and we can turn the tree around. We can get that best angle where it's not such an eyesore, and then we could always try to hope this root will thicken up this trunk here, and we keep the power off of this area now. But the bulge that's there now, we're not going to be able to do much with unless we make some deadwood features. So if we take this this trunk right here, that's dead and it was broken off. It was broken off at the nursery, probably why it was so cheap. So if we go ahead and we strip away some of this live vein and make this a deadwood feature, can we make a slight improvement in this reverse taper right there? So where it was bulged out here before, we make this deadwood feature and carve away some of this trunk and dig into some of this and make some deadwood feature here. That'll take a little bit of the bulge off of that tree. It'll give it a feature where you're looking at this, oh, look at that deadwood, and you won't stare so much at the reverse taper. Again, the reverse taper will be there forever. It might be best to just turn this tree around in a different line to get a different flow up from bottom to top. But again, some of that deadwood could take some of that away. So we'll try that with this tree at some point later in the year, working on deadwood, to see if we can get rid of some of the reverse taper. I might start the work on the deadwood portion later this year, but for now I just needed to get this massive rooted tree in the pot. Once I did get it in the pot, I was able to take away some branching that I felt would just not be needed regardless of the angle. Where there were 3 branches, I took down to 2. I was able to cut a couple of pretty thick branches too to promote the smaller ones to grow, and those small ones weren't really tiny, so they were pretty healthy and should be okay. And it made the tree look like it had a little bit more taper, thick to thin to thinner. And it'll promote more energy to those smaller 1-year-old branches. As with the larch, time will tell with the tree. I'll remind everyone that bonsai does not happen in one day, right? It won't happen even in 5 years with this tree. I'm thinking that I can hopefully show off this tree a little bit, maybe in about 8 to 10 years. The tree is potted, pruned, and watered. Now it needs to go into one of my cold frames for some great aftercare. As our temps shoot back above freezing at night, I'll reintroduce it back outside. That does it for another amazing workshop day with Peter T. I can't say again how much I appreciated his knowledge, his teaching style. We all learned so much. Thanks to Peter T. for all his work with us. We'll work with him again later in the fall. Until then, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you all very, very soon.